Yes, yes, yes. And you know what it's all about is purpose in life. You know, everybody here, they got a mission. They got a goal, prayerfully if you don't. The beginning of this program, you got to be awakened to that. You can't even operate in this spiritual and formal value system if you don't have your purpose defined and you're not willing to commit yourself to living your purpose. Because based on how our system roll, you don't even deserve the ability to accumulate fruit of the spirit slips or love receipts if you haven't identified your purpose, at least for the short-term goal of at least 1 year in front of you. If you haven't committed to that purpose, regardless of what it is, it could be learning something, it could be doing something, being somebody, whatever the goal is and your purpose for that moment, at least a year, that's what you're going to be held accountable for. So you get to set your own purpose. It could be, hey, I need to chill out and get healthy this year. That's a good purpose for that year. But whatever it is you set out to do, that's what you will be assessing for that year. So just like governments have annual government budgets, just like nonprofits got annual nonprofit budgets, in our system, every man, woman, and child has an annual purpose budget. And that's what you'll be held accountable for. That's your reason and purpose, your personal. That's what you personally invested in that year. It could be learning something. It could be developing a product. It could be doing some shit for some people. Whatever it is, it must be defined in a way where you can put it on a calendar, schedule out the operation, measure it, identify how much economics is going to cost, right? Because once you identify how much you're going to need to live your purpose in that year to come, say the next year or the next 5 years or next 10 years, you see the budget and say that budget $50K for that year or $150K for that year. After you identify your purpose, we measure the budget. Then we identify and estimate how much of that budget could be satisfied 100% with fruit of the spirit slips and or love receipts, because we got enough vendors in our network that provide those services that you want or products that you want, and they willingly accept, these fruit of the spirit slips and or love receipts. Now when you looking at your goals and your budget for that year and you see, hey, about 20% or 30% of what I want to do can be covered with these fruit of the spirit slips or love receipts, then directly you can use those to get at least 20 to 30% of your goals done for that measurable moment of time. Say it was a year or 5 months, 5 years or 10 years. Now for say the other 80% or 70%, you'd be like, hey, I need actual currency that's issued by the local government or the national government in the jurisdiction that I plan on operating, because they're not in our network and they may not be willing to accept our community currency right now, right? So say you see you need, let's just say, about 70,000 US dollars for your annual plan to work out. Well, that's when you look into investments. Invest in some of them love notes, because we do work with different companies that receive love notes and pay you fixed income returns up to 100% a year. And that ain't no joke. That ain't no smoke. That's 100% quotable. The thing about it is their returns may or may not be United States dollars, and their returns may or may not be distributed. They may retain their returns for a certain amount of years. Some of them have agreed to retain the returns until there's a market for love notes. Some of them have agreed to retain the returns for 5 years. Different companies are offering different investment options for holders of love notes. But let's just give an example out here. Say you found a company, or we introduced you to one that was in a network, or one a company said, hey, look, we willing to give investment returns at 100% for these love notes annually, say for 5 or 10 years. But we gonna hold it we gonna hold the returns until the maturity, until the end of this. And when we pay you back, we're gonna pay you, say, in love notes or cash, United States dollars, or whatever the currency may be, crypto. Now, in that situation, they're going to be holding your returns annually. If they so chose to do that, they still got to break you off with that undistributed capital gains. And they still subject to, and those undistributed capital gains is subject to federal tax withholdings. So they may hold upwards, like we say, to 20%. In that situation, the federal taxes that they withhold is still due to you as far as a credit that year. This is very real. That's just one type of situation that could occur or may occur. Now, in the situation that occurs, you could say, hey, I would have to invest upwards of X amount of dollars if I was going to receive only the tax withheld in the form of a tax credit and was able to cash that out because I ain't got no taxes due. If that's a situation, which is not a situation for everyone, and don't go recreating your life so this situation fits you. It's just an example here we talking. That if that's your situation, then you can do the math and say, hey, 10% of 800,000 is 80,000. So if I'm getting 20% back from the withholdings, I might have to invest $400,000 worth of love notes to a company that give me 100% annual returns, but either give it back to me as cash, my returns, because I love to take those cash in US dollars. But if they hold it to maturity and I got undistributed capital gains, that'll put you in a position where if 20% of that came through, that'll be 80 bands. As far as a federal tax credit due to the fact that the federal tax withheld on those undistributed capital gains. That's such a limited situation that you don't want to go planning for that. Nevertheless, it's just an example of unique things that could happen once you define your purpose, assess its value, and you see some creative ways where you can lawfully get things done using the community currency as a substitute to cash, yet as a healthy alternative that actually supports the local currency and the national currency, whether that's Federal Reserve notes or whatever central bank issue notes. These things work together, okay? It's just different ways to get value transferred. So in this session, what we're going to do, even though we're starting off about 8 minutes in, we're going to start how we started all the time. Flip, man. Tell me what you're thinking about this image. We got to go with the art first. You know, we're a culture of artists.
Facts.
So regardless of the situation, even though we keeping the art light, we want y'all to know a little bit about what's the art type behind what we're reading on the screen. So, Flip, what you feel like when you see this art on page 21?
Alright, I see, man, it look like a spiritual body with like different type of shapes connected to each other, all over each other. Probably like some energy.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. That's a great observation, because we talking about the identifying your purpose, assessing its value. So we essentially looking at human capital, and when you look at the human body, the human capital could be the ideas you have, intellect. At the same time, the human body is like a generator of energy, electromagnetic energy. We got amazing organs that each do amazing things, and it's value in all of this. You know, how you know it's valuable? Well, say you lost a lung, how much you'll pay for one. People paying for these things. People are paying for every aspect of the body. We ain't got to get into that. They even trying to clone, and they are cloning, and they got biohacking, all types of nanotechnologies. So the human body is to be explored to some. Yeah, well, we're saying it is a source of human capital. Yeah, so that image, it's all about identifying and respecting the spiritual value that flows through the human, because this system that we working with is a spiritual and formal value transfer system, and we working with spiritual assets majorly, and we wanted to let it be known that the human body has a lot to do with this. Human capital and how we use our human capital got a lot to do with our ability to create wealth using this system. Hey, you ain't never, what can I say? We just went 14 for 14!